I don't know. I think the Dolphins were wise in understanding my relationships around the league and knowing that I have information that they don't have or can't get. And I think they were smart in taking advantage of that, whether it was through me or through somebody else. The Cowboys have never elected to do that, at least with me. Maybe they have with others, but no, I don't feel there's a conflict. But I will say I'm pulling for the Dolphins, and I know that because now I have something at stake, and I think they hired two really talented, wonderful people, and I think that's going to prove itself out. Now, 26 is going to be a tough season because of the cap that they took a big hit when they let Tua go, but. Time will tell, but yeah, I'm pulling for them. I want to see them do well because I feel like my fingerprints are on it as well.
Hall of Famer Troy Aikman there. We're going to head out to the Toyota of Hollywood Hotline. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location. Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. ToyotaofHollywood.com, Joe.
All right, Woody, that would be advisor Troy Aikman to the Miami Dolphins. Boy, I'll tell you what, that little podcast stirred it up as we bring in Kyle Krabs, the host of Locked On Fins and NFL analyst for A to Z Sports. And good morning, Kyle. What do you think of Troy Aikman, man? A little shot at Dallas in there for Jerry Jones, and then said, hey, man, I'm all in on the Dolphins, and I'm sure a lot of Cowboy fans are going, you left us, bro. What are you doing helping them, man? Anyway, what do you think?
I think the Troy Aikman dynamic for this team is really interesting because it's really kind of off the beaten path of what they've tried, and I think there is value that Troy's brought, and obviously he said it himself. His reputation and his decisions and his name are attached to this build in Miami, so he has that vested interest, and I think it'll be interesting to see if we get any idea what formalities are involved with his consulting and what that looks like or not, or if he's just kind of a guy who is kind of there in the background. He said in that same interview he'll be in Miami and in the building for the draft at the end of the month. So that's kind of the next step for us getting an idea of how often Troy will be around.
Yeah. He's a Monday Night Football guy. It's just, hey, God bless him, man. The league has signed off on he and Brady doing all this stuff. It's just kind of strange one. But I'm with you, man. I think his comments on Monday Night Football against the Steelers, he really helped this team with his, I thought a little stronger than Troy usually is with his comments on the head coach as well as the quarterback. And I think it had an impact, starting with that and then whatever his relationship is to next thing you know, part of the interview process is as well. So anyway, besides all that stuff, we got the mock drafts are out, and you broke them down nicely. I saw your stuff yesterday, whether it's McCoy or Lemon or Delane or Maui Noah, Downs, Carnell, Tate could be in there. Is there one that if you stay at 11, and I know you haven't seen their board, and we got holes everywhere. You can't go wrong if you get an impact guy at 5 or 6 different positions. What would you like to see him reach out, though, knowing what the depth of this draft is? What would be your position and player?
Yeah, if all things are equal and you're talking about players that are in similar buckets, so if you have a bunch of guys that are first-round grades and you don't have like an elite blue chip, unquestioned best player available, because I think if that guy's there and it's not Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, I think you'd be well served to take any blue chip player that they may determine I just can't get there with running back, right? But if you're talking about a bunch of guys that are all in the same bucket of grades, all first round grades, I think there's probably some safeties that will be there early that they like, but I think that's a deep group. I think it's a deep group at wide receiver when you think about the top of the wide receiver chart. I think these offensive linemen and pass rushers are going to go fast, Joe. And I think you've got a better chance at seeing an appropriate valued player in the offensive line, whether that is Maui Noah as a tackle that they could play inside a guard for a year and then kick out and then play right tackle long term, whether that's Olavide Vega-Ioane from Penn State, who's a natural guard, and that would be a little bit untraditional for how John Eric Sullivan's old team, the Packers, have kind of gone about constructing an offensive line, but I think he's up there as the best players available. And I think he's a really clean projection to the league. Or that could even be Spencer Fano, who's probably the best stylistic play style fit for what you would expect if they're going to continue to run such a heavy prominence of the outside zone and the outside run game. And he's cross-trained and done workouts at center, guard, and at tackle throughout the pre-draft process. So that offensive line block for me is, I think, where I look at where is their value at the top, where is there probably not the same amount of value on day 2 that you feel like is going to make it there, because you could tell me we have 10 offensive linemen that go in the top 40, and I think it's a not unlikely outcome.
Wow.
And if that's the case and you skip at 11 and 30, who's going to be there waiting for you at 43?
Yeah.
And that's where I think that conversation gets a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Jamari Sawyer, you see him as a starter on this team. You see him getting a start at right guard. Would you be surprised in September if he's the starting guard there?
I would not be surprised. I think Jamari's had some really nice moments and stretches of play in his career. He's one of those guys that's kind of got the versatility is your best friend, but also your biggest enemy treatment in the league, where he kind of came in early and played left tackle and exceeded expectations as a mid-late day 3 guy. And then he's kind of pinballed all over the place and hasn't really been given a chance to settle into an individual spot for any extended period of time. And Dolphins fans know all about that with some of the guys that they've brought in and cross-trained. And, his versatility is great. We love having a guy, but his own individual development, I think, has probably slowed because of how much he's pinballed around. Now, if you tell him coming in, we're going to let you compete at guard, you're going to stay at guard, we're going to leave you at guard, maybe he makes the most of that opportunity and does win a competition for the starting right guard job. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah. Hey, you wouldn't be surprised if they took in those first 6 or 7 picks 2 offensive linemen. That wouldn't surprise you, would it?
No, I don't think so. I do think your conversation changes, in my opinion, when you get into the 3rd round for offensive linemen, and that obviously your expectations, I think, dramatically dip. Whether you're looking at a developmental guy who's big time tools, or maybe a guy that was a college tackle that you think is only a guard. I think those are the more likely kinds of offensive linemen that you would see your name called, where, hey, we draft this guy, I think he's got great tools, but maybe we don't expect him to start right away. But I do think when you look at the offensive line depth chart, I think they will have at least 2 rookies on the unit when it's all said and done, whether they keep 8 or they keep 10 on the 53 when we get to September.
Hey, Kyle, is it just me, or do you feel the same way that 30th pick, and I feel like the NFL feels like this a little bit, John Eric Sullivan could be looking to see if anybody's in love there in the 2nd round early on and is concerned somebody might grab their guy, that somebody might try to make a trade with the Dolphins on that 30th pick. Do you see that potentially happening?
Yeah, I think what's interesting with that is obviously you're leveraging the 5th-year option on the first-round contracts. What they brought in Ty Simpson, or it's reported they brought Ty Simpson in for a 30 visit. And so are they posturing some level of interest there to kind of drum that up? Because I think that's your best chance, right? Is if the Jets in Arizona don't take him the first, or in the Jets case, the 2nd time around at 2, 3, and 16, and then Cleveland passes at 24, you could say, hey, if you want to come up and get your quarterback and get your 5th-year option, we're open for business.
Yeah.
And you can drop down a few spots and get into the mid-30s. And I love those picks in the mid-30s, Joe, because everybody goes home after Thursday night. They come back into the building on Friday. They restack their board. They assess what's left. And you get a ton of business and trade offers if you're in those first 6 or so picks in the 2nd round, because everybody went home and slept on it and came back. And they say, hey, we got a chance to go get this guy.
Yeah.
We think we can really make a difference. So if you go from 30 to the middle 30s and early in the 2nd round, you might get a better offer to trade down on Friday evening than you got to move down on Thursday night from 30 to 35 or 34, hypothetically, whatever it is. So I think that is a really interesting kind of pivot point. What talent is left when you get to 30? or is it in a bucket where it's deep enough that you think you can kick back and still get a similar caliber player? And if it is, well, the hard part might be getting the interest at 30 as compared to if you were going to try to double dip it.
The other interesting one, and everybody's getting creative and talking about potential trades and what people would do. I saw the Chop Robinson to the Ravens and moving up to get their pick, and what'd you think of that? And it does make you. I know Coach Hafley's already said, hey, we're going to coach him up. We're really looking forward. He's got a great first step. He's super fast and learning more about him and all that stuff. Meanwhile, we're sitting here going, I didn't see much last year, and I think we have pretty good coaches. I'm curious what you thought of that potential trade.
Yeah, it's that was from ESPN and Bill Barnwell, and it was pretty much a trade idea for all 32 spots. And I thought it was an interesting suggestion to package 30 and Chop Robinson and go up the board, which was what Barnwell had put together. And I think the overall outlook on Chop is, he didn't get a great glowing review from either of the leadership guys at the owners meetings last week. And I think rightfully so with what he's physically capable of being versus what we saw. He's got to take a big leap. And I will say if he ends up having a similar season this year that he had last year, I think that noise and drumbeat is only going to get louder because it's a GM that didn't pick you and a coach that didn't choose you from the draft process perspective. And, that you'd be going into your fourth and final year, or maybe you don't have a huge trade market, but I don't think he's got the kind of trade market that ESPN suggested that he did either. Because I'd do that. That'd be in a heartbeat and say, okay, that drafted pass rush in the top 15 and call it a day.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty significant value that was assigned to Chop in that exercise from ESPN. So, I don't think we've really entertained the idea of moving Chop just because he's on a rookie contract and because they need all the pass rush they can get as far as it's a pretty lean group right now. But crazier things have happened. So, I wouldn't just be totally dismissive and say, hey, there's a 0% chance that this would never happen.
Hey, I want to ask you about the free agents that they have signed, not named Malik Willis. Outside of those, which free agents you see potentially having the biggest impact in September with this team of the guys that they've signed or re-signed?
Yeah, I think Joshua Uche's got a chance to be a really nice pass rusher for you. You continue to see flashes, and obviously he was buried a little bit in Philadelphia this past year, and they have a lot of early picks on the defensive line. So I think Uche's got a chance to be a really nice player. I would not dismiss Tolbert, the wide receiver. He's already getting some workouts and throwing sessions in with Malik Willis the past couple weeks. He was a nice player in Dallas in 2024. And then obviously CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens pair up, and you're not going to get a lot of targets in a wide receiver room with those two guys, right? I mean, that's an automatic 280 targets plus right there between two guys. So I think Tolbert can be a nice, not necessarily a one or anything like that, but I think he can be a nice productive player who can potentially build some chemistry with Malik Willis. So I think those are a few that come to mind. And then I would mention Sawyer if he wins the starting offensive line spot and they let him stay in one position. I could see him being at least a stable starter on a one-year contract.
See, and I was just going to add Tutu Atwell and Greg Dulcich to the group. I really liked Dulcich last year. I don't know where they stand on drafting. I know some people have them taking a tight end super high in this draft, but I really like those guys, and Tutu Atwell can do some of those things. He's really quick underneath, and it'd be interesting to see how they use him on the team.
Yeah, I think Tutu, even if Tutu is just the field stretcher, the Z, who's running the vertical routes for spacing, you have to respect his speed, because if you don't, like that's where he's made some splash plays is getting behind you because you don't take him seriously. And now you got a quarterback that can extend a little bit and hold on to the ball a little bit longer to make some plays happen, where if you don't play disciplined on the roof and he gets behind you, that can be a ticket for, I don't think he's a high yield like target guy, but I think he is a guy you feel him in the spacing of how teams play you coverage wise. And then Dulcich, I honestly didn't even think of him because he was on the team last year, but I think he's a great fit for a lot of the play action and the boot game. And you saw it last year where He'd run the slide and get out into the flat and be the first progression on their play action passing with the boot game. And you've got even more speed in the backfield now for that much more stress on the second level guys. I think he's a big catch and run guy. I think he's a great fit for the offense. And I would not be surprised if he's one of the leaders in the league in yards after catch amongst tight ends, because I think the fit and what I'm expecting the style of the offense to look like is going to be really good.
Yeah, I think they really like him. They have come out and already said how much Eric Sullivan's already talked about. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do for us off the work that he did last year. And you're right, his run after catch is really good, that he could be a 50-plus catch guy if he gets a full season in and make potentially a difference. How do you look? You heard Troy Aikman say, hey, everybody's going to have to calm down a little bit on this first year, though. We got to pay off some debt, as in dead money. What'd you think of that comment? I mean, he's right on it. I know we're talking about being competitive and trying to win games, but boy, to start with, and even your talent's got to grow and develop before it can be really good. It's not going to happen overnight.
Oh, yeah. And I think everybody kind of understands that in the building, and everybody kind of knows what time it is. And I'm glad that's the case, because the worst thing you can be is lacking in self-awareness of where you're at. And, that's where teams, I think, get a little reckless. I think about the Giants, Brian Daboll's first year, they went 9-7-1 and did not have a particularly good roster. But then they kind of went crazy, and they spent in free agency, and they traded a top 100 pick for Darren Waller, and that didn't work out too well. And then Waller retired after the first season. And they regressed massively, because I thought their process went out the window, because they got a couple extra wins with some good situational football stuff. So I think kind of the self-awareness of, hey, man, 60% of our salary cap payrolls from past debts for players who aren't on the team, and then, the former starting quarterback. The writing's on the wall. Everybody kind of knows what time it is. So I appreciated the honesty there, that, it'll be a tough year, but, the storylines that you'll get out of it, and the foundational stuff, it can be a great launch point for what's next if you go about it the right way.
Hey, we got into this just for a second here. I'm running super late because I get you going here and I destroy the format. Ty Simpson, I'm not interested if he's around at 30 to actually grab. We just have too many needs on this team, and we've already picked up a quarterback that they like a lot. I'm not saying they don't take a quarterback later on in the draft, but not with the 30th pick. Yes or no? You with me or no?
I'm with you, and I would actually go as far as 43, where now that I've started finalizing and stacking my personal board and putting it all together, Ty for me is in the 50s. So I mathematically speaking, there's going to be guys that I feel like are better values, even if the NFL drafted exactly off of my personal rankings. And I know they don't care about my rankings.
No.
But, for Ty being that far down, I don't think he'd be the right kind of value proposition at pick 43 either. And I understand the value, the positional value of it. But I got a second round grade on him. But he will not be my best available player 43.
Sounds good. Carl, thank you so much, bud. Appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Of course. Good talking with you, Joe.
All right, Kyle Krabs, host of Locked On Fins, NFL analyst for A to Z Sports.